Don't be putting out our stuff now.
And so I'm like, okay, now they're recording, so let's be. Good afternoon, ladies. How are you doing?
Greetings, Greetings, sir.
So I'm writing for a publication called JustNje. So I've watched the series. So now we're just going to ask you questions, and then for the next 19 minutes, I'm with you, and I get to talk.
Awesome.
So the first question, which I also asked the guys yesterday, but I'll ask it in this context, is how do you feel about fronting a female-led series in 2021, basically?
Proud, absolutely proud. And I think the way we tell it is so beautiful as well, and so warm. It reminds me of my girlfriends. You know, it's so beautiful how we have all these 5 women who have each other's backs, you know, starting off really shaky and not even knowing one another, but building their relationship so strongly that they're there for one another, and they're pushing each other forward, and they're those who are left behind, they're waiting for them, pulling them and carrying them, you know. And I think it's shown so beautifully in JIVA, especially with Ntombi, and how the trolleys really show up for her and carry her until the very end of the season. So I'm really honored to be able to work with such incredible women, and to also tell such a beautiful story about women with them.
Yeah, and I mean that's a very, very same sentiment that I have, and especially because I think that the timing of it couldn't have been more perfect. We are currently, it's necessary that we tell stories from an African lens that is not fully and solely influenced by a Eurocentric ideal of Blackness. So that first and foremost was important, but also to represent Black women leads with autonomy. It doesn't happen often enough. Often we are placed in roles that are secondary, caricature, stereotypical, and not 3-dimensional. So I hope that this is an invitation for various storytellers to not only look at the power of the female lens, but also of our voices and our stories, and how we carry an agency to make decisions and to lead stories, but to look outside of what it means for the marginalized groups to actually come to the forefront of storytelling, and to really give us the voice and to amplify our voices, to validate our opinions, and to make our real stories accessible to real people. And I'm grateful that we're not at the every beck and call and mercy of the men around us. Yes, we have our different relationships with the men within our context, but at the end of the day, we are the ones making the sole and key decisions for our lives. And that's a necessary thing to reflect what it means to be a Black woman in 2021, 21st century, South Africa, and globally.
Yeah. So leading with that, if you can just fill us in on who your characters are, and depending on who will answer the question first, and also kind of lay down the premise, or the premise of the narrative, basically.
So the story follows Ntombi, and Ntombi is in a place in her life where she's really just trying to find the kind of woman that she is. She's stuck between the young girl that listens to what her mother says, and she's stuck between that and also the woman that she's becoming. And it's so beautiful to see how she's these different women in all these different spaces, you know, and how these different spaces influence her to become the woman that she's destined to be. You know, she's trying to find herself. She's on a journey to find herself. And I think where we find her in episode 1 is right in the middle of it. And unfortunately, with JIVA Lokshin dance competition coming up, she's pushed and she's under pressure to really kind of find who this woman is. But also that I think is what pushes her to be forced to find who this woman is, because without JIVA, and I think without my Keke coming back into town, she probably would have stayed being as comfortable as she's been, working a job that she hates, busy pleasing her mother and never really doing anything for herself. So yeah, I think it's really about following your dreams. It's about not fearing where the journey's going, but being open-minded and open-hearted to where the journey may lead, and really trusting in what your process is, and just realizing that tomorrow's not guaranteed. So if you're going to continue to play small, you're not going to be fulfilling what your purpose in this life is. And I think Ntombi, she puts that pressure on herself as well to really go and find a better life for herself and go find the life that she deserves. So yeah, I think that's also what the premise of the story is, fetching your life and being free.
Yes, fetching your life, yeah. And that's, we're all fetching our lives, each and every one of us, every single character, even Ntombi's mother is fetching her life. And she's inspired to fetch her life through Ntombi's zest for life. And the same as Vuyiswa. So Vuyiswa is the ultimate city girl, like literally, when you go level by level and you're choosing your fighter, there's the last number that you need to fight, and that's Vuyiswa. So it's bringing the human, it's bringing the fluffy, it's bringing the vulnerable and the colorful world of what it means to be a woman with autonomy, but also a woman who's trying to navigate her way through her financial and social difficulties, which many young people can relate to fully. And it's putting respect on the name of what it means to be a slave queen. I think it's unfortunate that we've gotten to a point where there is a stigma and a misconception of a woman that slays and a woman that has chosen to take a road less traveled by others. So it was important for me to represent her in a way that she is human, in a way that she is as multidimensional, that you get to see her laughter, you get to see her tears, you get to see her joy, you get to see her struggles, but every single one of them feeds into the person that she is. I also love that she is a sister. She's a sister to Ntombi. She also, in very, very subtle moments, is very affirming to the other people in the group. She's affirming to JustNje, even though they have their conflict. But she also has a way of just going, you did good. And you see that at the end. You see it in how she's just like, oh, you cute little Nolazi character. Oh, you're so cute. So she moved from a place of love, sometimes not pouring the love into her own cup first, but she is rooted in love and she's grounded in love. And she sometimes is understood. But that's, I suppose, what makes her human.
Yeah. So this question is for both of you, but going to be asked differently, right? For Noxy, it's your first acting on screen role. So how's that for you? Or your first big one anyway, that I can think of, or from the research that I've gotten. And then for Candice, I know when you made it on The Queen, you said this is your first role as an adult, but thinking about the chronology of how it's actually shot, I think that is actually the first
official one, yes.
Yes. So for both of you, how does that, in each respect, feel like for you as an actor? You trying out your bone as an on-screen actor, and for Candice, you trying out playing this character that was your first adult role?
It's so crazy. I've loved theater for as long as I can remember. And I've always wanted to do theater for as long as I can remember. And, growing up, I never really ever said I wanted to do film or television, which was absolutely crazy. Because I know watching television, I used to go, oh my gosh, you saw this actor in another show and now he's in this show. Geez, these people are greedy. They must give us chances. and I didn't realize how much I absolutely loved television and film, but being given this opportunity has changed my entire heart. Theater's probably sitting there going, girl, you love us. And I'm just like, I absolutely love theater. And I've done theater all my life. But there's something about being in front of the camera. There is something about finding those characters and being able to tell a story of a character. And this character is growing and moving. Theater has its beauties, but with this, a character can grow. Theater is the same show every single day, but with this, you're constantly seeing this character change. And this is absolutely what I love about film and television, is that you're always seeing this character change. Being on set, the early calls, in the makeup chair, in the trailer, learning lines because you just got the script that morning. There's just something about it that really, that fills my heart, So I'm so grateful that my second television role, because the first one was with Ismaya, which was quite a small role, but it really just introduced me to something that I've learned to love so very much. And to be able to lead a series on Netflix, my goodness, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for how my journey has come, to where I am now, I've come from. And it's absolutely something I can't stop being grateful for. And I'm loving it. I'm loving every moment of it. And I can't wait for my next television role,
Yeah. I again, and it's so interesting that Nox has mentioned that she never imagined herself on screen, and on television. Same here, because I'm like, theater is the purest art form of storytelling. So you become a little bit of a snob. And I think I'm guilty of that. Where initially stepping into television, at some stage, I thought of playing it small in the beginning, but then I became very intentional about the roles that I took from the onset. And that was primarily because I wanted the craft to show primarily, and then everything else to become secondary. And sometimes people will lose the essence of how strong a performer someone can be when you become typecast. In the beginning, a lot of the roles that I was offered, or a lot of the roles that, I was sent to audition for and stuff like that, were very stereotypically Black girl, thick, slay, hot, very on the surface. But where is the grit? Where's the story? Where are the dimensions of this character? Where does the vulnerability of this character lie? And I shied very far away from those characters. Hence, the very first one that I got on mainstream TV, outside of the films that I'd done prior to Generations, and the other smaller things that I'd done. Generation was then playing a young character, a teenager. Then I realized that I found a niche. I found a space that I could dominate, and that was playing a young character. Because I think sometimes a lot of people graduate and they go straight for all these other mature characters, which isn't a bad thing at all. But I realized that very seldom are we shooting for young and small. And I mean, let me play on my youthful image. So while I did that for about 2-3 years, it was enjoyable. But then I realized that I want to expand my range. And because I've earned my space, now it's time to own it. And I've earned my right to call myself a thespian. I've done it all these years. And on screen, people can then see through these youthful characters that she is in fact talented. Now you can play real hot girl, you can play the city girl, you can play these characters, because then everything else is supported. Your experience is supported. The work speaks for you, and not so much the aesthetics. So playing this role was important. Obviously, it's the one that I got before that I joined the Queen. But I mean, I couldn't speak about that. And, I couldn't speak too much about my character on JIVA. So then I shied away from that. But then it was my first official role, stepping into a mature character. And it was like breathing. It really was like breathing. It's every part of who I am in my daily life, I could now offer to this character without having to overthink and without having to make her juvenile or anything, but to go, listen, girl, if you gonna say the F word, you're gonna say the F word in this scene, and that's that on that. And to be unapologetic about her boldness. Yeah.
So we have like 5 minutes left, so I'll stick to like 3 questions. So the first one will be, Candice, you can discuss firstly, just Durban as a backdrop and the inclusivity within the actual dances and the range of dances that were chosen, because you get to find community members of the LGBTI, you find
I'm gonna talk about that.
So that's why I'm just touching on it, and you can just continue and speak on seeing the inclusivity that was conscious with the casting made for JIVA. How do you feel about that?
The casting was absolutely brilliant. If we're looking at things of marginalized groups, if we're looking at colorism, if we're looking at just homophobia and how it plays itself in storytelling, because we then make excuses in saying that South Africa is a conservative place. But the problem is, with the lack of representation, we then start to erase who really exists in our South African context. So I can only hope that this work will inspire other storytellers, as I mentioned in my previous answer, to actually shoot far and wide in representing what South Africa is. This story is the story of the missing middle, and we don't see enough stories about the 20s and young 20-year-olds navigating their ways through life. So the fact that we then have a queer character, that is Lady E, who is not boldly and stereotypically queer. You know, you could go and then play her as a staunch stud. You could have done that. They could have cast her as such. She could have played it as such. But then she can be ambiguous, because that's a thing. Let's foreground the fact that these characters are human first. I don't even know if you see with one of the crews, I think they're called the Nkandla Divas.
Yeah,
the Nkandla Divas consist of a queer character. And the lead of that crew is queer.
Yeah.
And that is necessary, and the representation is necessary. And that's why I'm like, I can only hope that this work will not, we can no longer make excuses. Let us not, we can celebrate it now that it is led by 5 Black young women, but let that become a norm. Yeah. We are Black women, and Black people are majority of the population in this country. And let us not then high five each other. Let's make it a norm. Let's let that be the standard, that we don't shy away from representing members of the LGBTQ+ community. Let's also look at colorism. We have so many dark-skinned women in this cast. High five to that. And I don't know if it was fully intentional in the casting, but the fact that it's here and the fact that it's made accessible to the world is something that I'm perfectly content with, and we need to see more of. Let's amplify the voice of those that have been previously erased, and let's do more of it. Let us definitely do more of it. More queer, differently abled individuals, and many more.
Yes. So Noxie, as you're going to wrap up our interview, because I have one more question before they cut me off, I want you to talk about what you want people to take away. And my thing with watching this series became like 6 episodes were kind of a teaser, because the conclusion didn't actually round up the story. Because now I almost ruined it. 6 episodes don't necessarily tell us the full length of the story. So are you looking forward to a possible season 2? If there should be a season 2, and what do you want people to take away from watching the first season, at least, of JIVA?
I think this is a perfect setup for a season 2. I think a season 2 would definitely be able to unpack more of the characters, allow more of the actors to also explore their characters more, but also to kind of, like you said, round off these themes that are within JIVA. The theme of freedom. Does she ever get to be free? You know, she could easily go back to where she started from, but does she actually follow through with it? I'd like people obviously to take away South African culture, and to, I think, respect South African culture more, and to not take it as just we trained by mistake, but to understand that it is all intentional and it all comes from somewhere. I'm hoping that we could have a season 2 so we can explore more of the dance culture of South Africa. And just, I think it would be so lovely to touch on all the different cultural dances that we have in South Africa, and how that has probably influenced the modern dancing of South Africa. But also to kind of inspire people to to not stay comfortable and to really take the leap of faith, not knowing where it might lead you, but in the direction of where your heart really desires to be. So yeah, I hope for a season 2. I believe a season 2 could possibly come. And I think more great things would really come from more seasons of JIVA.
Candice, thumbs up if you also believe in a season 2.
Me, absolutely.
Dabadoo.
If you believe in it too, yes.
I do. I believe in 6 seasons. I think that's my time with you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm grateful.
Thank you,
Sabella.
Lacey, so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Right.
I feel.
See ya, Kitcheners.
Bye.
Kitcheners.
You